Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jason and today I'll be taking a look at Happy Little Dinosaurs. It's a game by Unstable Games for 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up. So here it is, Happy Little Dinosaurs. Smile, it's almost over. So the first thing you'll do is pick your character. We've got 4 different types. We got the Brontosaurus, Triceratops, Stegosaurus, and T-Rex. Each player has a mat that will have their corresponding dinosaur meeple and some stats, and each dinosaur has different stats. We'll go over that in a minute. There's a path that you'll use to track your points, like this, and also the disaster cards. So we'll show that in a second. You start by placing your meeple on the start board. And there's a main deck and a disaster deck. Each player is dealt 5 cards from the main deck. So each round you're going to want to score the most points in that round to advance your dinosaur. The first thing you do is flip a disaster card and place it where everyone can see it. And then each player will pick one card that they want to use for a point. And as a side note, if you don't have any point cards in your hand, you discard your hand and draw 5 new cards. So a point card is a card with a number. An instant card is a card that has an exclamation mark instead. So you're going to want to get the highest amount of points. So like this player doesn't have a very good hand, but they would play a 4. And a point card might have an effect, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So you play it face down. All the players at the same time, basically, you just pick a point card. This was a terrible draw for both of these players. So just pick the 4 there also. And then when everybody's played their point card, they flip at the same time. So like in this case, both would flip. And they're both a 4. So the way points are calculated, you calculate the score, you look at effects a card may have that would affect score, and you look at these numbers here. So like the T-Rex, the Nervous Rex it's called, has a symbol that gives it a +1 for the red disaster here. That's how the disaster card matters. So this would actually be 4 + 1. So the T-Rex would have 5, and then the Triceratops would have 4. So the T-Rex would win the round. But also, let's look at effects real quick. Sometimes point cards have an effect, and this effect is you may discard 3 cards from your hand, which is actually not a bad thing since this is a not good hand. We'll just just for the sake of argument, discard those 3. We'll put the discard pile right there. Okay, so after the points are calculated, you move. The dinosaur with the highest score moves their number of points. So this one had 5, so they'd move 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the player with the lowest score gets the disaster. This is at the end of the round. And then the final thing you do at the end of the round, each player moves a space for each disaster they have. This player here has a disaster, so they'd move 1. That player has no disaster, so they won't move. Then you refill your hand. And these cards go to the discard. So this player gets 1. This player gets 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you're ready for the next round. So to win, you've got a couple options to win. Be the first to get to the win mark. You get there, you win the game. The other way to win is if the other dinosaurs all lose and you're the last dinosaur still in. You do that, you win the game. So to lose, there's a couple of ways to lose. Well, okay, there's one way to lose, but it's different in a 2-player game than a 3 or 4-player game. But basically, you lose if you get 3 of the same disaster. So in this case, that dino would lose if they got the 3 different types of disasters. Or you've got the meteors, which are wild card, so you could have any 2 disasters and a meteor, or say 2 disasters, 2 meteors and 1 disaster. The other way to lose is if you get 3 of the same disaster. So you could get something like this. You could get 3 green ones, or 2 green ones and the wild card meteor. That would wipe you out of the game and you'd be done. And then this player would win. So then real quick, let's talk about effects and instants. So effects are a card has an effect, as we saw in that previous example. So like this card, for example, when it's played, you may look at the top 2 cards in the deck, choose one of the cards, add 1 to your hand, and discard the other card. And the effects are used as soon as the card is revealed. So you reveal the card, you do the effect. The other card are instants. Instants can be played at certain times. It'll tell you when. So this example, play during scoring. Subtract 2 points from any player's score this round. So then when the scores are calculated, just for example, let's say here's the scores, 3 and 7, you have an instant, you could play it and it'd be 5-3. That player would still win though. You can play any number of instants, you can take turns playing instants, you just do it all kind of instantly, kind of like magic almost. But that's how the play works. And I didn't completely go over these, but these add or subtract to your scores. So for example, the Happy Little Dinosaur here, if there's a meteor card in the disaster card, so that's a disaster card, Stego gets +1 to his score. You get a blue one or a red one, you get +1 or -1. Pretty self-explanatory. Final thing is ties. Let's say there's a tie. They both draw 4, let's say. They both draw 4, and the disaster card is a meteor, so neither of their cards are affected. So on a tie, for high score, both players move on their mat. So here both players would move 4. If there were 3 players and 2 of them had a tie, 2 of them would move the 4 spots. And then the losing cards do a sudden death. And what sudden death is, they each play a card from their hand and reveal it at the same time. The lowest card gets the disaster card. Whoops, it wouldn't be these, it'd have to be a point card. The lowest card would get the disaster, and no modifiers can be used in a sudden death for a tie. Now, if one player can't play any point cards, then that player automatically loses and gets the disaster. And then the only other thing that's different, in a 2-player game, you lose if you get 4 of the same disaster or 2 of each. So, you know, you lose, let's just do a quick example. You lose if you had this, right? You got 2 green, 2 red, 1 blue, and a wild card. Or if you get 4 of the same disaster, you lose a 4-player game in a 2-player game. And also in a 2-player game, to make it a little more balanced, they say you take all of the, well, that's why these were terrible, these were sorted, it looks like. You take all of the 1, 2s, and 3s out of the deck. So take all the 1s and 2s and 3s out of the deck. Makes the game a little quicker too that way. If you run out of cards in your main deck, you just shuffle it and flip it over and keep playing. But that's it for the game. It's real simple. I play with my daughter a bunch. She likes it. The Dino Meepos are awesome. It's a fun game. If you have young kids, give it a try. If you got older kids, they might not like it so much because it's pretty simple. But that will do it for this game. If you've played it and like it, let me know what you think. And if you didn't, that's cool. Give it a try. I'll be back with another video soon. So until then, thanks for watching.